Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack on Production. Today I, Bancroft, am being joined by both Nick and, like always, Fluff.
Howdy.
What's up, people?
And today we are actually at our finals. And guess what? There is no Gotenks or Baby this time.
Or Soul Striker.
Well, Soul Striker's only been there one time. I've seen Baby Gotenks like 10 times so far.
Yeah, I mean, but
what we do have is a mono green versus a mono blue deck, which is very similar to the matchups, but totally different. Nick is playing at Clash Coup.
I call it Clash Coup hand control.
Versus Fluffs?
SS3.
So
just SS3 Reboot. Yeah.
So we're about to get into the duel, but like always, if you enjoy our content, hit that like, subscribe button. You know, the fun stuff that there is for clicking on buttons if you have that type of fetish. But
yeah,
hope you all enjoy.
So I just want to say before this duel actually gets underway, I guess Bancroft had just played Nick, and
no,
Bancroft.
I played in the first round. Yeah. Not too, yeah.
You had played Nick, and you're like, how does your deck fare against hand control? And I was like, when I threw this deck together, hand control was the one thing that I really worried about. So, and Nick and I had talked about this deck before, and had kind of theory crafted on it a little bit. And I know he's changed it since we last talked, but my general play here is I hard mulligan for draws. So Ultra Instinct, Kamehameha, Draw Apes, anything that would just add extra cards to my hand. Because Soul Striker or SS3 Reboot's big weakness is from the time the game begins to the time you awaken, you do not draw extra cards, and you actually -1 your own hand to ramp your energy.
Yeah, and I think that's just almost blue in general. Blue really struggles with card draw. I mean, the Saiyan Instincts is really good just to add that extra draw, and you used it pretty regularly. But
yeah, I actually activated a few. I counted this up last night. If I'm not mistaken, I added 10 extra cards to my hand over the course of this duel, beyond like swing draws, turn draws.
Yeah, but the way I have it set up is just like I can consistently like get everyone's hand down to 0 pretty much every time.
Yeah.
So like my turn one play with the Vegeta, the super combo, just make them drop, and then I had the Power of Legend Goku in hand, which just a free play, just add value, crit, just adding that early pressure on.
So Nick actually played me in round 2. And I was really curious how Son Gohan would also last against it, because the recovery rate for Son Gohan is so high. But as you can see, I'm not in the finals. But there was one turn I felt like I got my entire hand back, but you had like 3 Ribians or something like that in your drop, which something you got to look out for against Nick's deck.
So I wonder if this was a mistake. I was more trying to get the draws into my hand. I left myself fairly defensive. I knew that I had to try to worry about repetitious crits taking me out and forcing me to burn combo power to get rid of it. So I'm trying to think as conservatively as possible, hoping that if I maybe can get this Bardock off the field, that I don't have to worry about recurrent crits from here on through.
You mean Goku?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I mean, it's the crit Goku.
Yeah.
Goku. So here I get my ramp charge, puts me at 3, which makes the baby hatch in my hand live.
And we talked about this too, even before our duel. We've seen Baby Hatch get played in almost every game that has been in a deck.
Yeah. It floats so hard to the top. And like Baby Hatch was something that I did not want to open. And I mean, just because it doesn't really help me other than prevent you from critting my life. But I know I'm going to be forced to use it in a really poor spot, or I'm going to lose my entire hand with the Baby Hatch included.
Yeah. Then turn to the Bardock Unison, which honestly, it's an amazing especially with my deck, because I do main a lot of 1-drops just so I can fuel that Bardock, because it does work. I mean, just that consistent every turn, just getting a card out of your hand and then
Yeah.
going on more doing it. It works.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yep. Yep. And I'm feeling the hand pressure a lot at this point. And I'm really worried about my ability to defend, to provide applicable pressure on you. So I'm really just trying to play as careful as possible. I will say my turn 1 charge, I spaced really hard on your deck. And if I were thinking appropriately, I would have kept that hit. And that hit would have been like the card to play to buy myself extra time. But I get down to a point where you're just ripping my hand so hard that I have no choice but to get rid of every card in my hand and keep the one applicable card in my hand.
Yeah, because I mean, there's different types of control out there, but with just hand control, it's just how do you? It's more resource management than this game normally is. And this game's resource management. That's all this game is. So
Yeah.
you have to think defensively. You have to think about what you're keeping in your hand, and at the same time, honestly, it doesn't matter to me because I'm making you do it. So
And it really leaves you dry for resources overall. Just because and I mean, if you look at my hand, like I've got a super combo in hand, I've got a Goku in hand to recover a unison later, because I'm not afraid of having to drop a unison if I need to, but I go in and send that back in because it's not going to do a lot for me. But what I want, and I can't remember, is this the turn that I comboed really hard? I think it is. But I was digging for some type of negate, counterplay, or something that would be applicable. Because I know if I don't spend them here, you just rip my hand. And then I lose them. And I lose the dig. I lose the ability, because I'm not at Sparking 5 yet. If I somehow manage into a Dimension Magic and I'm out of energy, I can't play it. So I know I've got to go kind of heavy in that regard.
yeah. But I mean that's the whole strategy with the deck, though, is just constantly getting you to use your stuff. Not ideally, which would be ideal for me.
And again, I just sent a hit back to the bottom of my deck, and I really wish I had kept it.
Yeah. But that's the kind of pressure that this deck puts. It's not like straightforward, like I'm going to attack you to death. It's just how can your opponent use your cards as least effective as possible.
Yeah. Yep. And that's it. Like, you're just putting me in this position where I have a really terrible, like, I think I'm sitting on 4 cards in hand, a Trunks counterplay with no unison up, so I can't play it. I've got a 6-drop Vegeta, which will be live next turn. I've got an Abuni, which would provide pressure, but it's not necessarily problem solving for me. And I've got a Dimension Magic. So I'm trying to think, like, I should have honestly kept the Dimension Magic, dropped the Trunks, but I'm thinking combo power.
Yeah. But in reality, with my Bardock Unison, which I don't use it this whole game, but I have that ability to control your combo.
Yeah.
And which I realized it after the duel. I was like, I didn't use that ability once. And honestly, it didn't matter too much.
Yeah, it wasn't relevant.
But in most matchups, it can be.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then I just played the crit Gohan. Just easy, just take my own life, spark it, because you weren't hitting me too much. So I needed more resources, and then getting that crit pressure, and then making you drop them.
I accidentally added that card to hand, forgetting that swing was crit. I'm basically just trying to keep that Vegeta in hand, and not having to use it. So I think here you basically, I notice your hand is getting small. So I don't want to swing into your lead. I don't want to net you any additional resources.
Yep.
So I'm deciding if I want to combo this or take it. Because really, once at this point in the game where we're about to move into, Soul Striker goes completely full-fledged and becomes pretty insurmountable as far as the I said Soul Striker again, but SS3 Reboot. It really becomes insurmountable as far as like what I'm able to do. Like if I can get that Vegeta off without you discarding another card from my hand, I'm gonna draw 4.
Yep.
Which is so important at this point. And I know you're just gonna keep ripping. So I'm at 2 life. I have the choice of keeping a negate that will probably be dead in my hand at some point. So I charge it and then keeping the Vegeta. So now I have to think, do I want to tap 6 for the draws? Do I want to swing draw? Like, what are the... Like, yeah, I'm done with that crit shit. Like, we are just going to get rid of it.
Yeah. And then Dormant Potential, just the green good stuff, you know. And Rebrand was in my hand, so now next turn I'm set up just to get rid of more stuff you're going to draw.
And maybe in hindsight, I should have played this Unison instead of the Vegeta and just tried to funnel you out, because it would have... You would have probably still been able to do a little bit of damage on me. But here, I got a Sensu Bean, I got a Ready to Rumble, I think. I just got a bunch of cards in hand that could potentially help me survive. So it's all kind of down to what you do this turn.
Yeah. And your life is low enough to where almost anything in my deck is viable to kill.
Yeah, anything in your deck is deadly. Like, especially once you awaken.
But I don't think I do this game.
No, I don't even think you have to awaken.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is part of me messing up, not having the forethought. Like, you have it charged. Like, I know you run the card, but I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah. And I only run 2 of them in this deck. I had it at 3, but I also have 3 Cells Kamehameha. I think it's more applicable than Feet Kamehameha, just because I can use it on everything besides my leader.
Yeah.
And it's a really good punish too if you're getting swung at. Because I think it'd be better than the negate, because you block an attack potentially and you're dropping a card from their hand on defense. So just if it's worse than a negate in my opinion.
It really is. And I'm worried about here. I'm thinking more, I've got to play through the hand control here. And I've got to play through the crits, and I've got to play through everything else. So you play this, you haven't tapped any energy. I should have just probably blockered here. I don't think that solves anything for me.
Yeah, because I remove it this turn too. With the intensive training Son Goku, you see it in my energy, but I have a second one in hand. The ability is kind of rough to get off. It's very risky. But I knew what was in your hand because I saw you draw it all. So I knew I would be pretty safe for it. It just depended on which Goku I wanted to pick. Because in this tournament, I added the SS3 Goku Fist of Fortitude. He's the SR from the draft box. And we talked about this after the duel too. That Goku and the Goku that I ended up playing it's a really good tech option for whichever you want to pick, because they're both 5-cost Gokus, so you can pick either one from it. And just depending on the situation, you can either go really tall with a 30k triple strike, or if you don't think you can win that turn, go with a double strike and then just control the board.
It's a really nice toolbox for this deck. And I mean, you could even, I think there's a couple other 5-drop Gokus, and there's a couple of evolve targets that if you ever wanted to like tech in that evolve from a 5-drop green Goku.
Yeah.
And so here I immediately realized I regretted immediately using my negate. I should have played the risk game, let you crit me, and tried to play around from there. But there was just really, really nothing that I could do at this point.
And this package, it's you don't see it at all. So I mean, you would know because you've seen the deck work before, but it's never played. I've never seen anyone use this package before, but I mean, in my case, it works. I mean,
it really wouldn't be that bad if it wasn't paired with the onslaught of hand control. Like, I mean, at this point in the game, just to kind of illustrate to everyone how much hand control and resource wasting has occurred for me just to like stay alive and like grasping at ropes. I've activated 2 draw apes. I've drawn 4 off a 6-drop Vegeta. I've super comboed. I've Ultra Instinct Kamehameha. So that is, by my count, 10 extra cards that come to my hand. Could be 11, but 10 extra cards, and I'm sitting on 4 cards in hand.
and
So
I could have potentially done more because I had the rebrand and drop.
and truthfully, like, I couldn't hit that 25,000. Like, you didn't even have to combo to win this game. Like, I only got to 25 because my other 2 cards in hand were unisons. Like, there was just nothing to happen there, and I really just needed something on field to help. But him blowing up the field is just so devastating in this matchup.
Real quick, the Super Saiyan 4 Goku Unison.
Yeah.
What is it to -5 again?
-5 is return all cards on field to hand. But
so what's the auto then?
The auto is when you play it, your opponent can't attack with battle cards unless they KO a 2 or more from their side of the field first.
That may have let you go like an extra round and potentially do something there, but he still had 5 life.
Yeah. Well, I knew once I got the like unison on board and I was able to control the field that I would have had an easier time defending and getting through it. The problem is I was so, let's call it, dehydrated by that point. Yeah. Like, I just had nothing to go on. Like, my hand was 2 unisons, which did nothing in that moment because I played for the draws on the Vegeta, because I feel like that was more important than putting a unison out that he could potentially play around. Yeah. And like, I was thinking like, oh, I've got a blocker on field. He didn't respond with Frieza, so the likelihood of him popping the blocker is incredibly low. And then he played that Goku, and that Goku was just the answer for the resources that I happened to have at the time.
Yeah, just being able to KO everything, ignoring barrier on play.
Yep.
So good. And since you had 1 open energy and no unisons, I mean, I know I was safe from any counterplays, so the option was either go really tall or clear the board. And I figured clearing the board would be a little better in this instance so you couldn't combo this stuff away.
Well, yeah, I was at 2 life. Like, I mean, yeah, I was at 2. I had 4 cards in hand. I mean, mathematically speaking, you had a super combo and a Ribrianne in hand. Like, best case scenario, I barely hit that, and then I'm tapped out. And then you still have your unison and leader swing to get through. So, best case scenario, I got out of that. Like, I didn't have a blocker. I didn't have a negate. If I'd have had a negate, that would have probably changed the pace of the game. But we kind of checked like my next few cards that I would have drawn when this ended. And I would have been able to board a unison and then had a Trunks counterplay during my next turn. So odds are you probably activate Ribrianne, rip my hand, and I still probably lose at that point. But yeah, it's such an uphill climb for SS3 in particular. It draws the fewest between Baby, Soul Striker, and Vegeta GT.
Yeah, there you have it. I just went blank. Wow. Okay. Now, were you about to say something, Nick?
No, it's just I really like the Clash Crew Leader. I played it before in a red green variant. I wanted to bring it back for the longest time, and then Set 10 really opened my eyes with it. Just doing hand control, because it's something you don't see too often. I mean, you see it with Slug, you see it with certain archetypes that are specifically hand control, but the Clash Crew Leader just proves that just hand control could be almost any green. It's just because the stuff is just so generically good, and inherently just the leader is really strong on its own too. So I like tall leaders. I like hand control. It works clearly. enough said.
It really is. Sorry, Bancroft. It really is the combination of cheap hand control with cheap or free crit pressure. Like, because you aren't recovering any resources. And I think that's a really good combination if you aren't totally prepared for it, or if you don't have an answer to the crit plays. I don't know that there's an option to recover, especially if they're following it up on their turn 4 with a Goku clear the field, swing 25,000 that can't be removed by skill. If that resolves, then you are just set so far behind that it's recoverable, but it's incredibly unlikely because you're never really going to have enough cards in the hand after that to combo it off and KO it.
Yeah, and we talked about this with your deck specifically, since most of your stuff is pretty high cost. The effect honestly wouldn't matter much to you, but in most scenarios, like a 5 cost or lower, it's steep. Like even SCRs, some of them, like you still have to drop 2 just to play them.
Yeah.
So it's rough to get to be on the receiving end of it, because
it really is.
It just makes everything such a high cost, and you either have to kill me with what you have, or just sit there and watch me do it.
Yeah, you almost have to respond in some meaningful way to that 5 drop. Like you just have to handle it. Like you have to have a Trunks ready or a hit ready. And I guess in the replay, in my mind, I make it more of a point to try to keep one of those to stick at that point, because I had an opportunity to keep 2 hit, and on in both points, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, he's playing a lot of 1-drops that are discarding from my hand or critting or self-awakening him. I don't want to put those back into his hand, so these hits aren't valuable to me.
And at the end of the day, they're just 1-drops. So if you waste resources on them, I mean, honestly, I don't care, because it's just a 1 cost. Like one of them is literally just draw a card off of it. Okay. One of them is I get to look for a unison. The one that hurts more would be the super combo, because that's the one that makes you drop. But even still, like, I'm not wasting much energy. You're doing the work for me by getting rid of your stuff to get rid of my little things.
Yep. Which is why I didn't keep the hit, because I didn't perceive its value. Because like I wasn't even thinking like 4-drop to 5-drop Goku. Like I was thinking this long drawn out, like until you can resolve Bardock's effect, or something a little more robust. So it wasn't even in my spectrum to take care of that. And that was, that one's on me. But also, like, kudos to hand control crit.
But at the same time, too, like the intensive training Goku combo, it's really risky, because you have to tap forward just to get the Goku out. So that leaves you very open. And then the intensive train Goku's fine, because it has deflect and barrier, so it doesn't get touched by most things. But the 5-drop Gokus are where you get hit. So if most people know about it or plan on seeing it, they can see it coming a mile away, because you're playing the intensive training, so the 5-drops are coming. So it's very risky. But if you're safe from it, I mean, play it, and then you win.
Yep.
All right. And so with that being said, I don't think we actually have this profile on our channel. So if Nick's okay, we could profile it this coming weekend.
You do. We profiled it. It was a while ago, but I can bring it back again if you want to do a refresh, because I added those 2 cards to it, so we can do it again.
Okay. Yeah, I just went through. At least I didn't see it. Maybe I put the wrong picture on it.
It was a while ago, but
yeah, I mean it's been a minute.
Fair enough. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Nick, any final words?
Clash Crew's great. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And go green. Woo.
And Fluff.
Like always, read your cards, know your plays. I didn't in this matchup, so know your plays. It's important. And like always, Fluff out.